Granblue Fantasy Relink is a fantastic game, but it has one big flaw that is the reason why most players will abandon the game very soon. Granblue Fantasy Relink is a hit. People all over the world are playing this action JRPG and critics love it. Pretty much everyone praises the fun combat system, the great variety of different and unique characters, the gorgeous graphic and a fantastic soundtrack. And I agree, Cygames did a great job with all of that. I had fun unlocking new characters and I'm amazed how fun to play they are. The game isn't flawless though, and it actually will cost the game most of its players very soon. Before I tell you what flaws I'm talking about and how Granblue Fantasy Relink can avoid players giving up on it, we need to take a closer look at all the Monster Hunter comparisons that are floating around the internet. You've probably seen some of these comparisons, and while I do understand them, when we take a closer look at Monster Hunter's gameplay, we'll see that the comparison doesn't quite fit. The main reason for that is the outstanding complexity of Monster Hunter in most of its gameplay mechanics. Take the weapons for example. Mastering all the moves and how they connect is a satisfying learning curve, since the difference it makes when you master a weapon's handling is strongly noticeable. Going on a quest in Monster Hunter is more complex too, as you need to prepare yourself with the right set of items, eating the right food, and choosing the best loadout. I'm not saying that a game with complex mechanics is better, and I also wouldn't say that every game needs that, but there's a very simple reason why Monster Hunter needs it, and this is one big reason people spend hundreds to thousands of hours with this series. On paper, Capcom built a very repetitive game. Go kill that monster, come back, and repeat. That's the core of Monster Hunter's gameplay. So Capcom knew that they needed to build fun gameplay mechanics around this, that are all connected to the core gameplay and make it more varied and therefore fun. So back to Granblue Fantasy Relink and the big flaw I told you about at the beginning of the video. Because Granblue Fantasy Relink lacks the complexity that should support its core gameplay, it quickly becomes repetitive. The thing is, it's missing variety on several levels. First of all, Granblue Fantasy Relink simply doesn't have enough bosses and interesting enemy encounters. Finding the bosses is without a doubt fun, but not when you have to fight the same monsters over and over again. I mean, yeah, people could argue that in Monster Hunter you have to fight the same enemies too. But then again, the gameplay mechanics around that provide a variety that keep the loop interesting, because pretty much every mechanic is absolutely crucial to be a successful hunter. Which brings me to the second level on which Granblue Fantasy Relink is missing variety. As stated before, this game has a ton of cool and fun to play characters, but the design of the character's gameplay is rather superficial. That's because the moveset and set of skills don't offer a satisfying and fun learning curve due to a lack of complexity. Using a flashy skill might be cool, but there's not much more to it than just waiting for the cooldown to end. There's not really an element of timing your attacks right, or risk-reward situations as with Monster Hunter's elemental discharge of the charge blade. Yes, there are characters that come with different combos for the standard attack, or their own mechanics that are actually fun, like Rackham's heat gauge. And that's when playing the characters is the most fun. Most of the time though, these mechanics feel like you're just executing them. There's no strategic element behind it or anything else that needs to be considered. You just have to wait for the link time to start, or for the opponent to be in break state, and then use most of your skills to maximize damage. Also, did you know that you can maximize your damage by subscribing to this channel? The next level of missing variety are the boss's gameplay mechanics. Like I said, the ones we got are fun to play, and especially the last two story bosses provide interesting mechanics that require much more from the player than just button mash until the health bar is down. But with those few bosses we've got, they would have needed to be far more complex in their design so that the battle itself stays fun for a while. Instead, the launch version of the game offers bosses that mostly require you to button mash, if we're completely honest. There are exceptions, I know, but bosses in Granblue Fantasy Relink are usually designed according to the same pattern. The battle starts, you attack for a while, next comes a downtime, then you attack again, then downtime again, and repeat until the boss is down. That concept itself isn't problematic per se, but the downtimes usually don't require much more than just dodging incoming attacks. An exception would be Vulcan Bola, where you need to stop its ultimate attack by destroying 3 spots spread throughout the area. So instead of only dodging, this is a simple damage check, and this shakes up the gameplay quite a bit. What remains are fun battles overall, but the fun quickly falls away due to the superficiality. Too often the same bosses appear, and even the other mission types are filled with the same bosses in the endgame. So in the end, you find yourself fighting the same enemies over and over again. I want to clarify that I don't say Granblue Fantasy Relink does need to improve on all of these things I mentioned so far. It doesn't need to have more bosses that are all complex and difficult, and it doesn't need all characters to have more complex gameplay. It doesn't need to be all of that at once. But I'd argue that if Granblue Fantasy Relink would improve on at least one of those aspects, that it would have a far greater long-term motivation. It's totally okay to have a certain superficiality in some gameplay mechanics. There's nothing wrong with that, and it actually makes certain aspects of the game more approachable. But devs need to be aware of what the core gameplay is and build interesting mechanics around that. When all the gameplay mechanics are simple, then a game needs something that makes up for that, like a super engaging story, which is why older RPGs are still fun today, by the way. Or, when all gameplay mechanics are simple, there has to be a ton of content to make up for that. Repeating the same content can work, but then there needs to be an incentive to do so. One thing could be increasing the difficulty. The Dissidia Final Fantasy games did that. Here you basically defeat the same 20 or so enemies over and over again, but they actually get more difficult the further you progress. Some would say that this is also the case in Granblue Fantasy Relink, but there is an important difference. In Dissidia, the difficulty increases because the enemies get more capable, more skilled. So what you need to improve is your own skill. In Granblue Fantasy Relink though, increasing the difficulty only requires the player to increase the character's stats. Maximizing the damage and surviving mostly comes down to the character's attributes. Again, on itself, that's okay. There just would have been something needed to make up for that. Granblue Fantasy Relink is not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination, but I'd say it wasted a lot of potential. It would have benefited from having more boss fights or boss fights that require more teamwork, or have mechanics that are special and therefore fun. The airship missions with the turrets are a good example. More of this kind of variety would have been great. I'm still looking forward to the future of the game, but I hope the devs take a close look at player feedback and create a long-term motivation that keeps players in this beautiful world even longer. Granblue Fantasy Relink could become a game that will be played for years to come, and I hope it will. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Also tell me in the comments if you're still playing Granblue Fantasy Relink and what your thoughts on the game's future are. Alright, have a great day and I'll see you in the next video.